Good morning, dear students, and welcome to today's session. In this session, we are going to continue with our discussion of Act 1, Scene 2 of the play The Merchant of Venice. In the last class, we had discussed till line number 10, where we saw that in the initial part of the scene, Portia is directly introduced to the readers and she is in a melancholic mood because she has become tired of the world and she has anxious thoughts with regard to her marriage because of the strange provisions which are laid down by her deceased father. Now, in order to console Portia, Nerissa advises her that she would be sad if her miseries are as plentiful as her good fortunes. So therefore, Nerissa advises Portia that it would be better for Portia to be seated in the mean, to be situated in a position midway between her miseries and her misfortunes, because those people who have too much of anything in their life, they suffer in the same way as those people who do not have something in their life. And she also said that those who have too much of anything, they grow old soon, and those who have just enough with them, they live longer. In other words, she said that superfluity comes sooner by white hairs, but competency lives longer. Now, it is in response to this speech of Nerissa that Portia tells her good sentences and well pronounced. Okay. So, according to Portia, the advice which is given by Nerissa, they are good sentences. That means they are good maxims, they are good proverbs, and they are well pronounced, means they are well spoken. So Portia here is perhaps hinting at the legal use of the term sentences which are legally pronounced by judges. What Portia means to say here is that the advice which is given by Nerissa, they no doubt are good maxims, they are no doubt good proverbs, but at the same time it is very difficult to follow those maxims in real life. So Nerissa replies that it would be better if well followed. Means these maxims would prove to be even more better if they are obeyed in real life situations. It is in response to this that Portia speaks that line or that speech, if to do were as easy as to know what were good to do, chapels had been churches and poor men cottages, princes palaces. Okay. So in reply to Nerissa's words, Portia says that it is easy for a human being to learn the right mode of living in theory than to follow that mode in practice or in real life. It is very easy for a particular person to know what is good to do. That means what is the right mode of conduct in life. It is very easy to know. We all know that honesty is the best policy, isn't that? But the question is, how many of us really do follow that maxim every time in our life? When it comes to practice, we find it difficult to follow it. So had it been very easy to act upon the good advice, then there would have existed no problem in this physical world. There would have been no sorrow, no misery in this world. If it would have been as easy to follow the good advices as it is to know them, then the chapels had been churches. Chapel means a place of religious worship, a church which can accommodate only a small number of worshippers. That means it is a small church. So those chapels would have been converted into big churches that could accommodate a large number of worshippers, which is no doubt a sign of prosperity. So small chapels would have become churches. Poor men's cottages would have become palatial buildings like that of a palace of a prince. There would have been no poverty in this world. When it is as easy to follow the good advices as it is to know them. If people can really easily act upon those good advices, then there would be prosperity all around. These chapels would be converted into churches. Poor men's cottages, the humble dwelling of a poor man, would get converted into palatial buildings of a prince. It is good divine that follows his own instructions. It is good divine. Divine here refers to a priest or a preacher. Who is a good preacher? What is the work of a preacher? To preach good lessons to other people, to preach the right way of leading life to other people. But who is a good preacher? A good preacher is a preacher who can follow his own teachings. Many a time we find that these preachers teach many things to the people, but when it comes to practice those teachings in their own life, they are found lacking in following their own instructions. They do not follow their own instructions, their own teachings. Okay. Same way, Portia says that I can easier teach 20 what were good to be done than be one of the 20 to follow mine own teaching. So Portia says teaching is always very easy. But when it comes to follow those things in real life, it becomes equally difficult for a person to follow them in real life situation. A person can easily teach 20 people what is good to do. Like Portia says that she can teach 20 people what is good to do, but when it would come to follow her own teaching, she would find it difficult to follow her own teaching. Then she gives the example of human brain. She says the brain may devise laws for the blood. Here brain refers to the reasoning ability of a person. It refers to the mind of a person. Blood here refers to the will or the body, or we can say the physical desires of a person. So the brain may frame laws for the body. So the brain may devise laws to control the physical desires, the carvings of a person. So Portia says that a man's rational faculty can certainly frame sound rules of conduct so that the man should exercise due control over his physical desires or cravings. But the impulse and the passion of a young man does not actually obey those rules of conduct. They do not obey those rules of conduct. Clearly here we are able to see the distinction between the mind and the body. Okay. the mind will always say that stealing is wrong. Okay. The mind always tries to check us, but what happens? The physical craving is so much that we are unable to resist that temptation and we commit that error. So it is obviously that the rational faculty of a person, the mind of a person, the brain of a person may frame laws to control the desire, the craving of a person. But the hot temper, the heat of the desire of a person, the heat of the physical craving of a person, it always disobeys those cold laws which are made by the mind. That is what is meant by the line that but a hot temper leaps over a cold decree. And this passion of a young man is compared to a hare, hare, rabbit, which is very agile, quick on its steps. A hunter may set net to catch a hare, but the youth hare, that is the rabbit, is so alert, so quick in its movement that it easily leaps over those nets of limping nets which prove to be a limping material for the rabbit. They are never caught in those nets. Same way, the high spirits, passions of youthful age, they are just like the hare, because these youthful passion, they easily leap over those meshes of limping good advice. Okay. But however, Portia then says that this reasoning, so the reasoning, the argument which she is giving, that reasoning is in no ways helpful in choosing her the right husband. Okay. So, but this reasoning is not in the fashion to choose me a husband. The wise talk of Portia is not in the proper way for helping Portia in making a selection of her husband. And then she begins to reflect upon the word choosing. She says, "Oh me, the word choose." Okay, she reflects on the word choose. Why? Because she is in such a position that she can neither choose the person whom she loves, whom she likes, nor she could refuse the person whom she dislikes. So her fate, her marriage, is to be solely decided by the lottery of the caskets which is devised by her father. So she finds herself in a difficult situation. She is in such a situation where she can neither choose the person whom she likes, nor she could refuse the person whom she dislikes. And in this fashion, the will of a living daughter is curbed by the will of a dead father. The will, here there is a repetition of the word will, and it has two meanings. First will, the will of a living daughter, refers to the desire of the living daughter, that is Portia. And the will of a deceased father refers to the testament which is made by her dead father. So the desire of Portia is curbed, is restricted by, or it is restrained by the testament or by the lottery of casket that is devised by her father. And she finds that it is very unjustified on her part. Is it not hard? Is it not injustice done to Portia? Because though she is a beautiful lady, but she has no right to make a choice of her husband, and that makes her anxious about her future life. So she is anxious, she is worried, because she is in a position where she could neither choose one nor she could refuse one. Okay. It is in response to this that Nerissa then consoles Portia by saying that Portia's father was a very virtuous person. He was a righteous person, a very virtuous person, and holy men at their death have good inspiration. Good inspiration, here inspiration means divine guidance, the guidance of God. So the people who are virtuous, who are holy, they always have the divine guidance in whatever they do in their life. So the idea of the lottery of the casket, or she has full confidence that Portia's father might have exercised all his experience, wisdom to devise that lottery of casket, because that lottery of casket is not merely a game of luck. It is devised in such a way that it is a true test of the character of a person. So the lottery of the casket, which is devised in 3 caskets, that is gold, silver and lead, and whoever chooses the right casket, that is the casket which contained Portia's portrait, will be the rightful person to get married with Portia. He will be the rightful person who will love Portia the most. So the lottery of casket is not merely a game of luck, but it is the true test of a person's character. Only a person who loves Portia the most will succeed in making the right choice of the casket. And then, however, she inquires Portia that what feelings does Portia have for all those suitors, renowned suitors, who have already come to Belmont to take part in the lottery of casket. So as many as 6 princely suitors had come to take part in the lottery of casket, and now she inquires Portia that whether Portia has any warmth for those princely suitors or not. So Portia tells Nerissa that to name those suitors one by one, and as she names those suitors, Portia would describe them, and through her description Nerissa could easily make out what warmth Portia has for those princely suitors. Actually, Portia can not directly say that she has no liking or no warmth for those princely suitors, because she is restricted by the promise, by the oath which she had made to her dying father. So she does not want to be a violated daughter. So she is an obedient daughter, so she respects and obeys the testament of her father. So therefore she tells Nerissa to name those princely suitors one by one, and as she names them, Portia would describe them, and through her description Nerissa could easily fathom the warmth of Portia's feeling for those suitors. As a matter of fact, Portia describes these suitors in a very sarcastic manner. She ridicules those princely suitors, and it is through her description we can easily make out that Portia did not have any liking or warmth for any of these suitors who had already come to Belmont to participate in the lottery of casket. In fact, she was anxiously waiting for Bassanio to make his presence in Belmont and participate in the lottery of casket, because she had some affection for Bassanio. Thank you, and we'll continue with this in our next class.